Okay.
Hello, everyone. So, I've got a special guest today on the JJ Think Tank. I've got Dioplatonist again. So, well, I already made a video about Dioplatonist when he talked about anarchism, but now it's the first time that we're speaking together live. So it's great to speak to Dioplatonist. He's got a lot of interesting ideas. I like to watch some of his videos when he's uploading about philosophy, theology, etc. And today's topic will be about the Book of Job, and I want Dioplatonus to share what he thinks about this because I read this book in Liverpool around I don't know 10 years ago, and I remember it made an impact on me, and I don't remember much about it now, but I'd like Dioplatonus to first I want Dioplatonus to say more about himself, and then we'll go with the flow and see what happens.
All right. Well, my name's Carson. I also go by Frater Dioplatonis or Ambitheus on YouTube and just in general. Um, uh, and well, okay, I'm actually my theology is basically a sort of like Thelemic, sort of like syncretic with Mandaean or Mandaeism sort of theology, wherein it's neo-Gnostic but non-dual in nature rather than Gnostic, dualistic in the Gnostic ancient sense. So it's much more grounded in blending the Western esoteric and Eastern exoteric traditions um, in a attemptedly non-Orientalist way. Um, I'm an anarchist, someone that, uh, I have a lot of things in common with JJ in that, I feel like anarchism is great, but I don't think it's necessarily like too practical in terms of like just waking up one day and the world's an anarchist paradise. I think that we have to be protopian in our approach and we have to work within the system as we see it so that we can more effectively draw people into a better worldview and a better outlook for themselves and others. Um,
So yes,
the way,
so you just
yeah,
said about anarchism, yes. So I liked your concept before. I noticed this concept. I think it went by. What did you say exactly?
social dashboard. Oh,
Prefigurative.
prefigurative. Yeah.
So can you expand on this a bit? I think I found this quite interesting.
Prefiguration is basically the anarchist principle or the revolutionary principle of building the world you want to see within the world as it is now.
Mhm, mhm.
So, and
And
that sort of thing.
by this, uh, was this my interpretation of your concept? Do you mean, yeah, yeah, we try to um, predict what will happen in the future, and by already knowing kind of what was going to happen, we try to adapt and prevent
Yeah,
negative outcomes from occurring before they do. That's how I
that is part
interpret.
of it. That is part of it.
Okay.
Um, Not necessarily like a predictive history sort of thing, but more so like a living by your principles sort of thing. Um, so if you're opposed to the capitalist markets, then you simply don't take part in the stock market. You don't buy stocks, you don't buy bonds,
Mhm.
and instead you invest in cooperatives or um, nonprofits. And you do so without expecting much of a return, and it's more of a donation than anything. It's you're investing in people rather than a product.
Yeah, so with linked to this as well is the idea of kind of dissociating from corporations, yes,
Yeah.
or from not having a job that is linked with a corporation or with the government or with the bank, etc. Right? Because if as you alluded to, Carson Lee, or I'll call you Dioplatonus if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'll call you Dioplatonus. So as you alluded to, Dioplatonus. we have to live by our principles because we can think one thing, but if our actions don't align with our principles, then there's a fundamental conflict within us, right? And in the long run, this actually isn't good, I think. And this is
I
what,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's I I would say that living within your principles is probably the best way to avoid psychological breakdown.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes,
because if you, I have to deal with some of that because I have a car loan, um, and I have to pay that off. But I also just do not like the idea of taking out debt, which
mhm.
is really unfortunate. It causes a great deal of stress in my life, um, having that whole situation going on. But generally speaking, I am taking the principled steps towards creating an anarchist world through my own individual actions, such as agriculture and um, how would I put it? Fleshing out the newer, more radical and niche, hyper niche forms of anarchism that I
I-
partake in.
Yes, yes. So I really respect that. I like. So you mentioned now agriculture. So I like this. The idea of making your own food, because our food supply is by and large poisoned, isn't it? It depends where you shop, obviously. If you're wealthier, you can shop in I don't know Whole Foods or something like this. But if you have less money, then you're forced to shop in these lower quality supermarkets.
Indeed.
I mean, to be honest, in the UK we've got Aldi, which is actually okay. The food is all right there. Same in Poland, we've got Biedronka, which is actually okay, but still, it's not ideal. Yes, and yeah, I know a couple of people who do the same as you. They're starting to make their own food, to grow their own food, and I think this is a good process,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Something else I'd like as a anarchist form of praxis is gift giving and barter and trade. So
Yes.
recently, yesterday, I baked some zucchini bread for my neighbors. It's a
Yes.
little dry, just a little dry, but I'm sure they'll appreciate it because it's free. And they've
Yeah.
given me a bit of they gave us cucumbers,
Uh-huh.
which
I
was
also
really
I
nice
also
of them.
engaged in barter recently, so I know this Russian guy, and he taught well for a while. He taught me piano, and I taught him English. So we did like a trade.
Oh wow.
So it wasn't based on money, just based on trade of time, I guess. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is kind of linked to your idea about the gift giving economy, right? And
Well,
being outside of the monetary system.
that would actually be also something that would be what I talked about before. I think you had a misunderstanding about it though in that video was time banking.
Yeah. So
So
okay, explain this.
time banking is essentially you have some skill that you can perform a task with. So like what you did was you spent say 5 hours teaching him English, and he spent 5 hours teaching you piano, and you traded that time rather than you know what I'm saying? Like you were acting as banks of time
Hmm.
for one another
Hmm.
rather than purely. It's another form of barter and trade, but with skills. You know?
Hmm. I see. So now they were playing this. Let's go into the Book of Job. Book of
Yeah.
Job. Just share your thoughts, and then maybe after I'll share the screen and read something from Wikipedia. Because I read when I watched your video, I then went onto Wikipedia and read a bit more about the Book of Job to remind myself, and we might yes find something interesting.
So I've been reading Answer to Job by Carl Gustav Jung. I'm about on page 26 or 27, and the prefatory note really
Oh, could you repeat that? I don't think quite the pre.
the prefatory note and the lectori benevolio, which
Oh,
are like the preface and the just a preface
oh, the
like the
preface.
preface note.
I understand. I understand. Sorry.
um Both of those were very very impactful to me with the first time I read them, and essentially like they are discussions on like the nature of the Western theological project and how this also reaches into different theories from other people other than Carl Gustav Jung, that are perennialist in nature. They view the far ancient ideas of theology as being a unified block that we don't recognize in the modern day. So the idea is that the nature of God as being omnibenevolent, not omnibenevolent, but omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient is indicative of a non-dual state of God that is impersonal. But in the specific example of Job, is a highly personalized experience that Job goes through. And it really shakes his whole world up, wherein the devil is trying to get him to rebuke God through God's powers. God essentially says, okay, Satan, you can do whatever you want. I'll let you do whatever you want to Job. If he will remain faithful. And he does. Um, but Job ends up realizing he has no idea what God is or how God acts. And Jung discusses, I think I saw it the other day. Let me see. Yeah. This is I, the creator of all, the ungovernable, ruthless forces of nature, which are not subject to any unethical laws. I too am an amoral force of nature, a purely phenomenal personality that cannot see its own back. Basically, the idea is that God is like so fundamentally natural and true that it's beyond the capacity to know fully. That if you were to know it fully, you would like your head would basically explode with knowledge, you know?
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, so here I agree uh, about how God is unknowable, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm coming more to this conclusion that God is unknowable, that God is not irrational, but uh, the mystical side of religions appeals to me more. So, for example, I've entered the world of Sufism recently. I've read some poetry by Rumi, some work by a I think Dutch author. She wrote a book about Sufism, so I read this as well. And then some mystics, famous Christian mystics, etc. And obviously, all of these schools of thought they emphasize the unknowable, the irrational.
Yeah.
And I don't think God can be known by via reason, yes, and via rational thought. I don't think we can get to God in that way, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, you can go only so far
yeah, you can
into
only
the
go so far, exactly.
theological.
Yes.
Eventually, logic and reason start to break down as you come onto like these great paradoxes that are essential to reality,
Yes,
and
exactly.
that you
Yes,
can only work around them. You can't or integrate them. You can't
exactly. Yes, exactly.
break them down.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I mean,
Um,
I think a work that comes to mind that is similar to the Book of Job, Book of Job, is Kierkegaard. Have you read about the Abraham? Um, is it Abraham who God tells Abraham to kill his son, right? So Abraham goes to the mountain somewhere, I believe. He takes his son with him, and he's about to kill him. Yes, but then God intervenes just before he's about to kill him. And this is kind of the irrational side of God, right? Kind of the paradoxical, irrational side, kind of unknowable side.
yeah, that's a great example in the biblical, in the Abrahamic tradition that exemplifies the paradoxes and they like some people like Jung said that like he diagnosed the biblical God, the Abrahamic God, as being borderline, and that he there's very there's a lot of different nuances and complexities to God's character in the Bible as people recorded him, which leads me to a position of like a progressive revelation, wherein if God had said to people 2,000, 5,000 years ago, oh, hey, by the way, being gay is okay, um, you can, um, what would be another example of something that would be progressive revelation? don't stone people to death, you know, treating people badly. Like they did have very specific, like do not kill, do not steal kind of morality, but that wasn't as explicit as more modern revelatory uh, statements were. So, like for instance, in Crowley's work, which I think you have a misunderstanding about Crowley.
Um, I'm, I'm,
Um,
I'm against Crowley. I mean, I've never read Crowley. I don't intend to read him, to be honest. I think maybe I'm wrong, but he comes across to me as just an outright Satanist. And I read. Well, these are my ideas from Jay Dyer. So, do you know Jay Dyer, by the way? Do you know who Jay
no,
Dyer
I
is?
don't.
I think you might like him. He's an American YouTuber. He talks a lot about theology, philosophy, and he contrasts different worldviews. And he's an Orthodox Christian. So I remember listening to him, and he said that Crowley, Crowley was just this crazy, this crazy
Yeah,
degenerate guy who just loved sex and took loads of drugs, etc. And he worked for the British MI5, right? MI6, I believe, as well.
yeah.
But say what you think about him.
Well, the thing is that Crowley was not, as we understand it in the modern day and in the time of his day, a Satanist or a black magician, or he didn't advocate for the sacrifice of humans. He didn't he called himself the Great Beast 666, but more so in a purely shock factor. Like he wanted people like you to be like, no, that's terrible,
Okay,
because
maybe,
he
maybe.
was a shocking character. He was a um
So like,
he
he kind of
blended
made a
Eastern and
fool. He made
West.
a fool of himself to attract attention, and he wasn't really that evil inside. Perhaps, maybe.
That the worst thing he probably did was um leave some people on a mountain when they got separated during a mountaineering expedition, and
Uh-huh.
they both parties survived.
Okay.
Um, that's like the worst thing he did, really, besides like being a degenerate or a drug addict.
I mean,
Which I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, if he was only a degenerate drug addict, then yes. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's all these Satanists that they sacrifice children, and then these. I mean, these people, they're just pedophilia.
yeah,
Obviously, it's just unexcusable, right? So,
I understand that.
yeah.
Um, I understand that position entirely. Like the thing that I think you have a misunderstanding about Satanism is that Satanists are not purely atheistic or theistic. I mean, there's a lot of variation in their thought and motivations for their actions. So some of them, they may actually literally sacrifice children, but the thing is that they're most likely going to get caught and be processed by the legal system, honestly. And ideally, in a better world, they would be rehabilitated and told why that's wrong. And they would be able to contribute to society otherwise, you know? But a true Christian motivated and idealized theological Satanist believes that Jesus is Lord and Savior, but they refuse him nonetheless because they like his brother, or like me, they view him as the synonymous with his brother. And it's very complicated. I left this as a comment on one of your videos recently, the 2 minute.
I mean, Jung shares your view. I
Yeah,
believe Jung had the view that Jesus Christ and Satan are the same figure.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure because
yeah,
this is what I heard from Jay Dyer, and Jay Dyer criticizes this. He criticizes this Gnostic worldview of Jung. So it's interesting. I mean, that's why I like to have these debates, these discussions.
yeah.
Uh,
I wouldn't
not,
even call this
not
a
not just
debate.
to
It's more of
not.
like
I
a,
don't try to convince and to control people. I'm just to exchange thoughts, right? And it was nice speaking to you, the
yeah.
Platonist.
All right.
Yeah, so I think for the next video because it was kind of linked to Gnosticism and the role that Satan played in history and why Satan opposes God, etc. I thought it might be a good idea to talk about John Milton, Paradise Lost, because I
Yeah,
think this poem goes into this theme, right?
yeah. That would be an excellent topic for the next video.
Okay, so I
I'll have
don't.
to read it a little bit.
Yeah, I need to read it as well. I haven't read it in a while. I read it quite a while back, so I don't remember much. But I guess for the next video, we could do this if you're interested. Oh,
You froze. There we go.
Did you hear? Yeah, I was just saying for the next video we could do this if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, that's the end of our video. If you haven't yet, subscribe to Dioplatonis' channel. I'll provide a link in the description, and hopefully I'll be able to link the channel as well when I upload the video. I don't know how to do it because I've never done it before. But yes, thank you everyone for listening. And Dioplatonis, any final words?
Um, maybe like no, not really. I mean, I think that's about it.
Okay.
Maybe at most no, I'm good.
Okay. Next time, anyway. We've got next time.
Yeah. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know. All right.